Here's a quick video of how I use my Remote SL. I have the original version, which I think are going for pretty cheap, so they're good options to buy for hardware controllers still. I use mine just with a USB cable, but I use it directly with hardware too. I have here a iConnect MIDI, so the Remote SL is connected to this via USB, and then this sends MIDI out to all my devices. And the way I do it is I try to edit as little as possible on the actual Remote SL. It's kind of a pain to go through the characters to name them. So what I'll do is usually I will go to my global settings here, and from this page here you can dump your template into your computer editor. So here if I press listen, and here I'm pushing dump now, it's going to update my template with all my information. And then from here I can edit this and then send it back to the keyboard, and it'll be written to memory once I push the right button here. So basically the way I have it working is that there are about 40 templates on the Remote SL, and the ones I have selected for hardware is each template has its own, each hardware has its own template, which has its own MIDI channel. If you're just using this to control very basic hardware that's just the keyboard, you can go into the template itself and choose the keyboard channel in one template, and then just play with that when you want to go through the different channels. But in my case, I have it set up so that every piece of hardware has its own template. So there's the Alpha Juno, Sub 37, etc., etc. Most of these don't have control hardware templates. It's just to use the keyboard, so it's just for me to cycle through the keyboard settings. There's a few of them, like this one, the O&A, that have some hidden features that are accessible only via menu, and then I have them here conveniently set up. I can even set them up with my effects boxes. So if I go here, for example, to Big Sky, visually, here we go, the boost, for example, here, it's automatically connected there. So it's fairly easy to do. When you select channels, it's kind of a bit to get your head around how many options you have. There are 2 USB channels and 2 MIDI channels. You have 2 separate physical MIDI outputs here. So there's a way to set up your devices so that they don't overlap, and then, you know, sending something to one doesn't accidentally send control change or program changes to the other. But otherwise, it's fairly easy to do once you wrap your head around everything, and I definitely recommend it. I don't use Automap, but for example, I don't even have it installed on my computer. But for example, if I open Live, then the keyboard would automatically go to template 40, where it is controlling the mixer, and it's a default remote template that I've set it up in the MIDI channel information here. So even without Automap installed, I'm still have a script that's controlling Live directly here. This used to work with Logic too. It doesn't anymore. I'm not sure why. But it's still good with Live. And here you have access to your plugin settings from the default configuration here. One last thing to keep in mind is that on your regular templates, you only have that page in that template. So for example, whatever the settings are that you've assigned to these knobs, there's not a second page you can cycle through up here to have access to another bank of them in the same template. So if you use up everything that's here and you want to control more of the same hardware, you have to select a second template and then keep going with what the knobs do. This is actually built into the hardware, the idea that you can overuse, you need to assign more than what's available and then select the second page of a template as a second template. So there's a way to do it. I've never done it. But the reason I mention it is because in the auto map of the Ableton, you can cycle through different pages of the same template. So for example, here I'm controlling, I think it's Echo Boy, and I've got the mix parameter on one page in the template, and then if I go up, I could cycle through a bunch of other parameters. So you can go through a bunch of them. I think the second version gives up the screen and adds LED encoders, and I think that's pretty much the only change. These are useless, maybe good as extra bunch of MIDI buttons, and that's useless. Never used it. I wish this had the traditional mod wheel and pitch wheel. This doesn't work so well, and sometimes it doesn't get calibrated properly. The Aftertouch works great. This can be assigned easily too, so yeah, great option.